This is Breeze TV.
Good evening and welcome to SGA's Town Hall. I'm Anna Saunders from Breeze TV and I will be moderating tonight's Q&A. I will be taking questions from Facebook Live and from the field and asking the members of SGA who are in the studio with us tonight. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Of course. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Let's just go ahead and go down the line and introduce yourselves, talk about your position with SGA.
Yeah, so my name is Matthew Hirschberger. I'm a junior. I'm a senator. I am a senator, but I'm the Speaker of the Student Senate. My job basically entails overseeing our Senate meetings on Tuesday nights, which are open if you want to come and stop by. And I also oversee our 8 internal committee chairs.
And my name is Jewel Hurt. I'm a senior political science major. I am the student body president and/or SGA president. My job is to act as a liaison between the students and the administrators and take their concerns to the people who need to hear it and then get changes happening on campus.
All right, and I'm Kayhan Movagari. I'm a senior, or as I call it, a fourth-year freshman. I'm the executive treasurer. I meet with all 365 student organizations on campus. I help them if they have any financial questions. I help them with budgeting if they have questions about that. And I'm also in charge of a couple of different student funds where we're able to actually give money back to student orgs so they can do things on and off campus that they wouldn't be able to. So, yeah.
All right, thank you so much. So let's go ahead and take a look at these questions. First question from Olivia Bishop, what does SGA do?
It's kind of a loaded question. SGA does a lot. So basically the way our organization is structured is you can join as either a senator or representative. Senators are voting members who come to Senate every week and they vote on issues that we bring to the table. In addition, just come to Senate meetings. Senators sit on one of our 8 committees, and each committee does something different around campus. We have a diversity committee, a legislative action committee, committees of that sort. And we basically hear student concerns, take it to the administration, write resolutions, which is just kind of what we're doing in writing, pass that on to the people who can affect the change for us.
Yeah. Some of our values are to serve, to educate, to represent, to inform, and so I think that encompasses what we do pretty well.
And we have over 100 members. And I think the best part about this org is it's really you get out what you put in, and that's what I'll say for a number of our senators. Well, they'll put in hard work every single day, and they'll make a big impact on campus in a number of different ways. So, yeah.
So another question we got is how you all interact with the faculty and administration here at JMU.
Good question. Does someone want to speak on Faculty Senate first?
Yeah, so essentially Faculty Senate is like the faculty counterpart of student government. We actually send a representative to their meetings every month. So we have people working with faculty getting stuff done. In addition to that, members of committees meet with faculty based on the different issues they're tackling around campus. And Jewel meets a lot with administrators. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, that's one of my bigger jobs is to meet with big stakeholders at the university. So I have meetings with President Alger and Dr. Miller, who's the Vice President of Student Affairs. I also go and sit on the Board of Visitors. I have a committee it's the Student Life and Education Committee. So I take student concerns and SGA concerns, and I actually get to sit down at the table, literally, and talk to them about it. So I can, if you have any concerns you ever want to talk to me about, come see me. I'll make sure that goes to the people who need to hear it. Yeah.
All right, next question. This is kind of a loaded one as well. What's the point of SGA?
Ooh.
I can kind of take the lead on this
Okay.
one. Yeah. I think that the biggest kind of draw to SGA, or the purpose of our organization, is to give students a voice on campus. A lot of the times, student concerns or issues around campus it's so hard to find who the right person is to talk to. And it's really great when we're able to kind of bridge that gap between the students and the faculty. And it's really, really meaningful when we get to see some serious change happen, which is really our goal and what we strive to.
And yeah, our motto is kind of represent, serve, and inform. So that's kind of the 3 main parts of what we do for the students.
Having an organization that is kind of like the hub of students who we have like the leverage with the administration. So if you didn't have like a coalition of these students working together, a lot of things wouldn't get done, because then it would just be like a pocket full of students trying to get issues that matter and helping or trying to get administrators to care. But having like an organization that's dedicated to us, it gives us that little bit of credibility that we can get things done.
All right, thank you. We actually have another SGA guest in the studio with us. We're going to send it over to Colin and let him introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Colin Moore. I'm the University Services Committee Chair, and my job is to facilitate different requests from the student body to the appropriate administrators. And our committee has a range of tasks and responsibilities that range anywhere from parking to dining to anything to do with any of the buildings on campus, to UREC, to the health center, to any kind of safety concerns. So our committee has a very wide range of tasks and responsibilities. So.
Thanks, Colin. So what exactly, I mean, you just mentioned a few of the communities. What exactly do they do?
The committees? So University Services, for example, they work with administrators to make physical changes on campus. Academic Affairs, another very hands-on committee that works a lot with Faculty Senate to do stuff. A few years ago, they changed the name of general education classes from like GCOM to SCOM. We make small changes like that that students necessarily wouldn't like see or even think about. We're kind of behind the scenes, pulling some strings, doing some stuff. And then like Diversity Committee, same thing with issues tackling diversity. We've got a big event coming up in February. It's called Today I Learned. Not Today I Learned. It's I2M JMU. Definitely check it out. It's a great representative of what SGA does.
We also have, just to name the rest, legislative action. So they're like the political arm of SGA. They go on information gathering trips to Richmond and DC, and that actually is open to the public. So if a student wants to go on those trips, we do have applications. We also have communication, so they run our social media, membership, who internally like helps us with professional development and helps us bond and have retreats for us. Finance.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about finance. So what we do is we meet weekly with student organizations that are applying for what's called contingency money. And contingency money is a portion of student fees that are then reappropriated to those student organizations throughout the semester. So it's a sum of about $40,000 a semester that we're able to give out to student organizations to send them on conferences throughout the country, to bring guest speakers onto campus. If we ever really see a need and in a position where we can help financially, we really love to be able to kind of be there for the students. The one thing I'll say with our committees is our University Services Committee actually just had some really great kind of groundbreaking, operations done where we worked with Tawana Moore and Mark Klein, and we're in the steps of getting an approval for a campus closet. And the kind of purpose of that is to have an area or a spot on campus where students can come, students who maybe can't afford professional clothing, who are applying for those jobs, for those internships, who are trying to really move up in life after college, which is again such a big part of the mission of JMU. And having those kind of like donations from students and alumni be there for students to have, so they can go and do well in the next step in life. Yeah.
We also, I just don't want to leave anyone hanging. We also have a community engagement committee who they organize all our community service events and help us get involved with like the greater Harrisonburg area. And we also have class council. So each grade level has representatives directly for them. So they have their president, their vice president, secretary of events, and secretary of communications. So that's a great way to be involved, is follow those class pages and kind of see the events that they're hosting every year.
All right, thank you. And I know you mentioned Campus Closet. Any other projects you all are working on right now that you can share?
One big thing we're working on with Faculty Senate, it's in the works right now, so nothing's guaranteed, but we're working with them to get a diversity statement included on every professor's syllabus across campus. Still in the works, we're making some compromises, but definitely look out for that. That's a big thing going on right now.
We could also turn it over to Colin to talk about the bus. There's some new bus routes happening.
Send it over to Colin to talk about bus routes.
Well, the new bus routes that are being implemented from the transportation department is brand new, top of the line, like top down, just reshuffling of the whole system. So they're going to have a bus system that the buses come to every apartment complex every 15 minutes. So like you never have to worry about not knowing the schedule or not knowing like what the app is that you should use. So because the buses sit in Godwin currently every around 35 to 45 minutes not doing anything. So if they get rid of that time, they can get the buses to come to every apartment complex every 15 minutes, and then they will take the ICS shuttle route all the way through campus. So then you have an ICS shuttle that comes every 2 or 3 minutes. So by doing that, they eliminate all the waiting, and they hopefully take a lot of the strain out of the parking problem right now on campus, because it's going to be much more useful to use the buses. So.
All right, thanks so much, Colin. Going back to the committees, can you all talk a little bit more in depth about the diversity committee on campus?
Yeah, so you touched on that a bit, but want to expand on that?
Yeah, so quick shout out. Our diversity chair right now is Bree Moore. She's also participating in town hall. She's out in the field pulling students, so shout out to her. But yeah, diversity is really a committee dedicated to bringing awareness to diversity issues on our campus. They're super hands-on with other groups on campus to just advocate for minority students and their experience here at JMU. Like I said, they've got a big event coming up in the spring, I2M JMU. It's a great event where we highlight minority populations across campus, kind of shed some light on their experience, and kind of help raise them up.
Yeah. It's a newer committee. It actually used to be an SGA, but then the whole organization kind of got rebuilt, a new constitution, new committees, and it somehow fell through the cracks. And so this has been reestablished as a standing committee. It was an ad hoc for a couple of years, and so it's our newest committee with us. Yeah.
And a part of our mission is just to educate, and I think that a lot of the time it's students developing that kind of empathy towards other cultural and minority groups on campus, and again, just having that kind of moment to be educated and kind of understand someone's why or how they got here, and how we all kind of ended up on this campus together is just really important. So any kind of way we can push for that, we're definitely kind of big on that. So yeah.
All right, so how can someone join SGA?
Funny you should ask. In the spring, actually, we'll have major elections and minor elections. Major elections will be for student body president, executive treasurer, student body vice president. Then minor elections will come up. You can run to be a senator for an academic college or an at-large senator, and you can also run for a class council position, which is like, for instance, junior class president and stuff along that lines.
This next question is kind of fun. Is JMU ever going to be in a higher division for football? What do you all think about that?
You got this one?
Well, we actually just had a representative from athletics talk to us a few weeks ago at our Senate meeting. He said JMU theoretically could be prepared to move to the higher division, but there's some politics involved with being invited to a conference. So currently there's no plans per se, but he kind of conveyed to us that they'd be ready should the opportunity present itself.
So
But-
yeah,
But I mean, there's a lot of counter arguments to why we shouldn't move up, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a better program. And if we're winning and doing well, there's arguments on both sides, but I don't think anything's in the works right now.
not in the foreseeable future.
Right.
For all we know.
So speaking of football, tailgating has changed a little bit this year. Can you guys talk about the change going from Upper Convo to D-Hub this year?
Yeah.
What you all think about that?
Yeah, so basically, as we're all aware, new dorms are being built where we all used to tailgate, Upper Convo. So that lot is no longer available to anyone on game day. And the administration had a decision to make. Should we just not give students a lot? There were a lot of issues last year, safety related. There was instances where ambulances literally couldn't get through the crowd of people to rescue people, and that was just completely not okay. And so they were honestly worried about liability, worried about student safety. Would giving us a big lot, a more convenient lot, almost make that problem worse. But Dr. Miller is new, the VP of Student Affairs. He actually met with me and Desiree Ademba. She's the student representative to the Board of Visitors, and he was advocating for us and thought we should have our own lot, but with some regulations. Okay, we don't want to have an animal house like it was a couple years back. So we're trying to keep it safe, but also still fun and make it so it's a real tailgating experience and not, students coming to party and then going home, but students coming to fellowship and then go to the game. So yeah.
And Dr. Miller really did a great job working with students and with administrators to actually get us a place to tailgate.
Right.
He was on our side trying to get us on campus to have a place for fun. So shout out to Dr. Miller for doing a great job to help us find a solution.
All right, so this is actually another fun question. Why are gen eds a thing?
Well, I mean, I think that gen eds personally are extremely beneficial in the sense that you get a broader scope of the academics offered here. But kind of going back to like JMU's mission of not just, having you go through 4 years here, but coming out and being, a dedicated member in society and being well informed and being educated. And the only way to do that is to have a broad scope of material that you've learned across your 4 years. If we're all focused on just political science or something like that, there's a lot that we kind of miss. And again, it's being able to kind of connect through other people and having those kind of shared connections. And I think that we all have a gen ed that we look back on that kind of at some point in your career or in your life has kind of kicked in, or a connection you've made with a friend or something like that. But yeah.
And we did have a meeting with the provost last week. She joined us at our meeting, and we talked about gen eds a lot, and the idea that the gen eds that are currently offered doesn't have to be all that's offered. They're constantly looking at that scope and what skills and what classes are going to help prepare our students to enter the workforce and be the best they can be. So that's constantly evolving. It has a lot since we've been here, like since my freshman year, and it's just going to continue to get better.
And a great example actually of our members working with faculty to make some changes, we actually have a senator who works with the Gen Ed Council, and she's been very hands-on in the process to create new upper-level Gen Ed classes for upper-level students who haven't actually completed their Cluster 1 requirement. So I know enrollments right now, those are some great classes that if you're a junior or a senior and you haven't taken your Cluster 1, look into them.
Yeah.
So.
It kind of worked out well for me. I fell in that strange group of juniors and seniors that pushed off Cluster 1. Just kind of, again, through like the bulk mass emails was the only way I kind of got educated on these really cool kind of Cluster 1 alternatives that are offered. So again, just trying to like publicize that. And again, I know Callie Dukas, shout out her, she's the head of the academics chair. But she's been working really hard, and I'm actually enrolled in a 3D printing class as a 3-credit course, and how we can, the course description was how we can use 3D printing to lighten our environmental impact. And I know like the first half of the course is going to be how can we use 3D printing to remove plastics from the ocean, and how to kind of do things like that and bridge between technology and kind of preserving our future and kind of lifting our foot off the climate impact. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
That's pretty cool, yeah. So we're actually going to send things back over to Colin. Colin, we have a question about Top Dog and Dukes. We want to know what's going to happen over there. So.
Well, Top Dog and Dukes is going to be, they're building a brand new Phillips Center, which will take the place of it's right on where that construction site is currently. And that will be a three-floor new dining facility that will, I cannot speak specifically what will go on the first 2 floors, but the 3rd floor will be a Denny's, but it will not be specifically Denny's, but it will be something called the Den. And then I believe there's also supposed to be something similar to a Panera Bread going in there as well. And most likely the older restaurants that were in Top Dogs and Duke will probably most likely return to where the new Phillips Center is.
All right, thank you so much, Colin. So we actually don't have any questions right now, but can you guys just kind of talk about why you all do Town Hall every year?
So Town Hall is written into our Constitution. So one, we do it because we have to. All senators are required to participate, get out there and poll students and host a Town Hall like we're doing now. But I think it all goes back to our mission statement, to represent, serve, and inform students. We're here for the students. A lot of times we're perceived as inaccessible to them, and this is one of the ways we're trying to open ourselves up to get more in touch with the students and hear exactly what they want.
It sounds silly, but we are trying to be that voice for the students, and there's no way for us to be that voice unless we know what the students need and what they have to say and what their concerns are. So we're really, in any different way that we can try. And this town hall doesn't require us to have a Facebook live stream or to take questions on the fly, but we just felt like that was just another way we can really reach out to students and have them be able to, have that medium to reach out to us and to communicate their concerns or questions and things like that. And even if they are just fun questions, just making sure that we're there and available is just so important.
Can you all talk a little bit about grants and contingency?
Money guy.
All right, I'll take this one. We have, I'll just kind of go into detail about my role and how it connects to them. as treasurer, I'm in charge of 3 different kind of tiers I refer to it as. The first is the front end budgeted groups, or the FEB groups. Those are groups like student ambassadors, Black Student Alliance, NAACP, student government is a FEB group as well, Madison Equality. There's a few more as well that I didn't include, but they are groups that have large budgets that are recognized by the school because they are imperative to the success of students and the kind of moving forward of the school. So they are not necessarily monitored by me, but they will come through once a semester for approval, make sure that they're staying with their mission statement, they're living up to their vision and the purpose that the administrators and faculty deemed them as one of these groups. So that's the first group. The second group is we have this program grants. The application for program grants, shameless plug, actually ends tomorrow. So you guys will have tomorrow till midnight to submit program grants. You and your student organization can get up to $10,000 to run an event on campus. So I know that we'll be partnering, hopefully, again, everything has to be approved through Senate, but hopefully with groups like Relay for Life and Safe Rides, and a number of other groups have applied already as well. And the third to get to is contingency funds. This is for all student organizations on campus. If you're in good standing with the Office of Student Activities and Services, you're eligible to apply. We're able to give up to roughly $2,500 for students to, again, go on those conferences. We can provide those guest speaker fees. We can help you get transportation up to a competition. Any kind of thing like that we're really able to help with. So for example, the Latino Student Alliance applied at the beginning of this year, and they requested money for shirts. And these shirts were specifically for the marketing of their club and their event. They had a culture show going on, so it was great to kind of be able to help them publicize that, promote their event, and kind of promote that diverse, inclusive kind of mission that not only the school but also our student government is striving for.
All right. We're going to take it to commercial break real quick, but thank you all for your answers.
Absolutely.
Keep the questions coming, y'all. So we're going to head out after these messages. Welcome back to SGA Town Hall here on Breeze TV. We're actually going to send it out to Sydney Jackstimer, who is over at Madison Union, where they're also taking questions. Sydney?
What do you need back?
Welcome back to SGA Town Hall here on Breeze TV. We're actually going to send it out to Sydney Jackstimer, who is over at Madison Union, where they're also taking questions. Sydney? Welcome back to SGA Town Hall. We're having technical difficulties.
I'm Sydney Jackson.
So I'm just going to ask you all talk a little bit about the diversity on campus. We have a pretty low diversity rate. Do you all know why that is?
Yeah, so we were able to hear the question, although we didn't have the video there. And it was just touching on diversity levels being low and how we can kind of increase that. And what we'll do is we have, our Office of Admissions here works, really hard with the Student Ambassador Organization. And what they do is they're not just necessarily trying to get more applicants from the East Coast, but we're trying to really, spread out across the nation and make sure that we're reaching every different kind of region and different pocket of schools that could, potentially come to JMU. So again, just trying to really market ourselves as much as possible. I know that our girls lacrosse team winning the national championship is a great example of JMU being put on a kind of national pedestal. So as much as we're able to expose our school as possible, I think that that's the best way that we can kind of combat that low level of diversity, trying to have that awareness, and a lot of it also is making students feel comfortable here. And I know that Jewel and Matt that's a big kind of push through our entire exec and throughout the organization, is making sure that those students from those minority groups feel comfortable coming here and want to come to JMU because of the things we have going on campus. So I think being aware is the first step, and I think that the right people in the faculty and the admissions office are aware, and that we're all trying to kind of work together, because there is no perfect solution. It is something that's going to take a little bit of time, but I think that we are taking the right first steps to kind of fix that. So, yeah.
I think that's another reason why it's so important we have the diversity committee. We need to show these students that even if they are an underrepresented population, their voices can still be heard, and we want them to be heard. We want them to be here at JMU, so that all comes back to our diversity committee and kind of our effort to do our part.
Yeah, so that we can then fix the issues that make people feel uncomfortable or make it feel like this is not really home, so that we can have more students want to come here. We need to fix the issues that we have. Yeah.
And Jewel is very humble, but she was the head of the ad hoc committee for diversity before it became a standing committee, and she's really been a big push. So, having someone at the top who has this really great vision and kind of sees the bigger picture is really great. So we're lucky to have Jewel for sure.
So switching the topic back over to parking, can we expect more parking garages to pop up? I know we've had quite a few pop up in the last few years. What do you
I
all
think we
think?
need to go to Colin.
We got to
for
send that
this.
one over.
Should we send
Yeah.
it over to Colin? Colin, what do you say?
Well, the parking situation on campus, yes, it's not, let's just say that it's an ongoing situation. But the new Convocation Center is going to install, along with it, a 1,500 place parking garage. But the big push that needs to happen is with the buses, because you can't snap your fingers and all of a sudden 3 more parking garages pop up. That takes time, and that takes money, and it takes resources. And simply, like, those resources are stretched thin right now, trying to get those new parking spots and those new garages. So I think we all just need to make a big push for buses as be the real solution to the long-term problem. But that's it. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Colin. Can you all talk a little bit about class council and what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so class council, that's composed of senators elected directly in our minor elections in the spring. Each class has a secretary of events, secretary of communication, vice president, and president. And they do a lot of events that are class and tradition oriented. So senior class council, for instance, just had a bucket list bash for the senior class, where they came and crossed things off their bucket list. And it's great because we have to get involved with not only the entire student population, but each class as well.
They also, the sophomores do like ring premiere and then eventually ring celebration, so you get your class rings. The freshmen usually do like class t-shirts. It's a lot about that bonding and that unifying the class, but also traditions like tree lighting, which the juniors do.
That one's coming up.
There's so many, yeah.
So I know we have a new combo coming soon. Do we have an update on that construction? Or should we send it back?
I can talk for a sec.
Sure.
We actually, the man who came and spoke to us a couple weeks ago from athletics gave an awesome presentation about the new Convocation Center. I'll tell you, it's amazing. State-of-the-art facilities, food court, VIP booths, practice courts, obviously a huge 8,500 seat stadium. So it's really cool. He's very excited about it because it's not only going to hopefully bring more recruits to our school for basketball, men and women's, but it also could be used as an event space similar to schools like University of Virginia. They bring in concerts, so they're looking at possibilities like that. So yeah, it's going to go a long way to get JMU's name out there.
Yeah. And I'll say that it seems like there is a great attention to detail when we were talking about the different kind of spaces for students and for alumni as well. Like, there'll be club sections where obviously, old donors can come and enjoy themselves, but that kind of space will also be available for students in the sense where there'll be more open space. There'll be kind of by the student section area, more concessions, more areas for standing room. So just kind of, staying up to the times is something that I think that they're really working on. There'll also be a restaurant in there that'll be not only available during the games and events, but also year-round will be open. So, if whatever day it is, that there's a great restaurant always open, even on that side of campus. So just little things, and that's just a huge trend I see with JMU and the attention to facilities is that we're just getting better across the board. These renovations are slowly coming in, and they're really impacting students, I think, in a great way by giving them, space to be social, space to spend time together, and space to just really enjoy themselves as well. So not only will JMU be a great place while they're here, but a great place to come back as alumni later as well.
All right, so we're going to try to send it over to Sydney Jackstimer again over at Madison Union. Sydney, what's going on over there?
All right, and we are back at Madison Union in the SGA Town Hall. I am here with our first question of the night, Brian, who is a senior. And Brian, what is your question?
My question is, if JMU were to be upgraded to, I guess, Division I or Division A or whatever it is, how would that affect tuition costs and other costs to students?
That's a great question.
So the question is about kind of moving into this bigger football division again. How will that affect tuition, you all think?
Yeah, that's kind of hard to say, especially because we haven't been invited to move up in the, I don't really even know what it is, but the ranks, like we haven't been invited, so that's not even something that's on the table. So I personally have no idea how that would affect it when the time comes, because who knows when that's going to be and what tuition's going to be like years down the line.
And what Jewel is like alluding to is like if the ACC came out and reached out to JMU
Right.
and was like, hey, we'd love for you guys to join our conference, then it would be more of a conversation rather than right now where it's, you know, well, we don't want to mess this up, we don't want to go too far here, how would we handle this? And tuition is definitely one of those things where it's, how are we going to handle that if we do make this jump? And I think that, again, you know, not for this foreseeable future will anything kind of happen, and that a lot of people are kind of content with where we are in the sense of athletics like that. So don't expect any changes anytime soon, but again, we're always kind of keeping our ears open to see what kind of happens down the line.
And about the money, there are going to be, if we were promoted to the FBS and to a random conference, there would be a significant increase in cost for the university. Who knows, it would go to our tuition or our special fees, but there's costs you got to think about, like increased coaches' salaries to be competitive with other universities in the same conference, travel fees, possible facilities upgrades.
Yeah, for sure.
So things like that. We don't know if it would necessarily impact our tuition, but somewhere this money has to come from. So there would be an increased cost somewhere.
Hopefully donors, alumni.
So going off of that, let's talk about like the other student costs. Will tickets go up? Will we start having to pay for tickets? What do you all foresee with that?
I can say a lot of other schools do make their students pay for their tickets, but again, none of us are really in the position. We don't know the specifics because it's not happening yet.
Yeah.
So I personally don't know.
I feel like it probably would, and that's one of the arguments kind of against going that route, if I had to guess. But like I said, we don't know.
Right. So we're coming right off of a midterm election. How do you all feel that JMU kind of gets students civically engaged and gets them out to vote?
Well, we have the Civic Engagement Center, brand new as of last year. They had a huge get out the vote effort this year. They put on some great events. They registered a ton of students, drove students to the polls, hosted party at the polls at the Convo. So yeah, the Civic Engagement Center is doing a lot. I know student organizations are also doing a lot.
Well, they work with the Legislative Action Committee.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a committee within SGA where we're kind of striving to work with that center and to try and make students, again, it's all about education, being aware, understanding what's going on, not just in this JMU bubble, but, and again, not even just in the state of Virginia, but across the country, and how voting makes such an impact, and making students, again, kind of understand that just because I'm a 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, that my vote does count, it does matter, and taking the kind of necessary steps to cast that vote and to make an impact is really big, and that's where it starts from. Any kind of change, anything like that is going to come from your vote. So again, just make sure that students are aware, and again, working with faculty as well to make sure that the proper steps are taken for students to be able to go out and do those things.
All right, we're going to send it out to Sydney again at Madison Union with another question.
All right, I am here with a sophomore, Mary, who has a question about dining options on campus. Mary, what's your question?
I was wondering what the dining options for students who have allergies, what are they? That's great.
Thanks, Sydney. So the question was about dining options for students who have allergies.
Colin Moore.
We're going to send it over to Colin.
Well, the dining services group, the division on campus, they have a system called Campus Kitchen that is located in D Hall. And if you have significant allergies to whatever kind of peanuts or meat or any kind of plant, anything you can think of, gluten, you can contact them and they will buy the food that you are allowed to eat, and they will store it there for you, and then you can get it at any time if you just swipe in and go get it. And right now our committee is working closely with the dining services to try to market this service a lot better, and to try to work with them to also make it better in the actual D Hall and the actual dining facilities to keep the nuts away from whatever food that you can eat, or to make sure that all the ingredients are listed as well.
Kayhan, I know you said you wanted to add something to that.
So I just, to kind of touch to JMU's attention to detail, I think that, we have tons and tons of gluten-free options and kind of all the different allergy-aware areas in our dining halls already. And I know that what Colin mentioned, the campus kitchen, it's honestly groundbreaking compared to some other schools where they're not even paying attention to these students that have these dietary restrictions and needs. Just again, it's great to kind of see that from a student point of view, that I have these options. Although these don't affect me, I'm not a celiac, but I do have friends that have that, and that they are still able to eat on campus, and they do still feel comfortable going to these dining halls. So I do think that there is an effort there, and we just again continue to push for more and better. And if students do have certain kind of restrictions that they feel aren't being met, this is the time to reach out to us, please. I know Colin is willing and able to help you guys out. So again, if you have any little dietary restriction that you feel isn't being met currently by JMU, please reach out and we can kind of help you get in touch with the right people and make the changes that need to be had.
So we have a question about the building on the quad. Will it be ready for ADA compliancy?
Talking about Wilson
Which
Hall?
building?
I believe it would be Wilson, yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's being renovated. And a lot of our buildings still need to be renovated. They were grandfathered in with the passage of the ADA, so it takes time to renovate those. We also could turn it to Colin. I know he's nodding that he knows more about that.
So we'll
No?
send it over to...
Okay.
Well, the buildings that were grandfathered in, that does take lots of resources and time to do that. And with a university as large as ours, like the upkeep on these buildings does take time. So like to have all the buildings ADA compliant immediately is completely unfeasible and just not realistic in any way. But the university is working and going about it as quickly as they possibly can.
All right, thanks, Colin. So we have a question about bird scooters. Is JMU doing anything to regulate that you know of, or maybe working toward that?
I will say not that I'm completely aware of. JMU is obviously, they know about the birds. Bird came and spoke to us before they dropped them all off, so we all were somewhat prepared for what was going to happen. But seeing that there's already been a few accidents, and speaking to accessibility, a lot of times they're located on spots where like wheelchairs or people with mobility chairs can't get through. There are a lot of issues that need to be talked about, and I think it's more city council than JMU who's going to take on those issues. It's kind of like a Harrisonburg city. Yeah.
And again, it's more of like not on JMU. Again, it would be on more of the city council, because as much as JMU would like to think that they could restrict birds or these Lime scooters as well on campus, there's no way to regulate what happens off campus. And bringing that onto campus, there would kind of be no protocol, no way to really monitor that and regulate that. So again, we just kind of push for students to not abuse the privilege, make sure that you are following the rules, you aren't putting yourself in harm's way or being negligent of other drivers and whatnot. So we're hoping that if students just kind of follow the rules, we won't have to deal with too many kind of repercussions down the line. But if major change were to happen, we would expect it to come from the city, not from the school.
But SGA, like we've been talking and considering maybe doing some type of information session, meeting. We have academic affairs they do, like Today I Learned, which is on a topic. I think that would be a really interesting thing to look at and educate students about, like what's illegal on a bird scooter, or like how can you be safe and wear a helmet and stuff like that. So I think that's something that we're going to start looking into.
So as we approach the end of the semester, we have a question about textbook returns. Is there any way to streamline that process?
Funny you should ask. So actually, our Academic Affairs Committee and our University Services Committee are working very hard with some administration to actually get a textbook drop box installed at the university library,
Bookstore.
Bookstore, there it is, where you would return your books in a box instead of coming up and waiting in the lines and checking them in and stuff. I believe they're still working out some kinks with that, but definitely be on the lookout with that. We're working super hard because this process sucks right now. So anything we can do to make it better and faster, we're definitely on board with.
So can you come to a Senate meeting if you're not an SGA?
Yes.
100%. We do market our meetings a little bit. We say they're open to the public. We post on all of our social media. Sadly, not a lot of students come, but we do, ideally we would have students come sit in and voice their concerns, because that's what we're here for at the end of the day.
All right, well, we're going to take it to commercial break, but like I said, keep the questions coming right here on SGA Town Hall.
This is Breeze TV.
And welcome back to SGA Town Hall. We're going to send it over to Sydney Jackstimer, who is over at Madison Union, and she has a question of her own she would like to ask. And welcome back to SGA Town Hall.
Hi, so I actually have a question that I'd like to ask the SGA Executive Leadership Team. This year we changed the Madison Majesty title from Mr. and Mrs. Madison to now the candidates are allowed to pick what title they would like to take. What kind of feedback have we had from that change, and do we think that change will continue on in the years to come?
So the question was about Madison Majesty, and what kind of feedback have you all gotten from that change?
If you want to explain the change first.
Yeah, should I? Yeah. Okay, so basically now instead of having an organization nominate one boy, one girl, very like gender exclusive, if you have a different gender identity or non-binary student, they have the opportunity to just nominate 2 people. So regardless of gender identity, to then be nominated. So you have to be nominated from your organization first, and then you fill out an application, and then you're interviewed. And then 10 finalists are picked, and they don't have to be like, it's just regardless of gender identity. And then once the finalists are chosen, they get to decide how they want to be announced. So they can choose Mr., Miss, MX period, or none. They can just be a Madison Majesty, and they choose what their sash says as well. The whole court is now considered the Madison Royal Court, and we've got a lot of positive feedback about that. At least I have. I've heard a lot of students say like it sounds very royal and it makes a lot of sense, and Madison Majesty, it just makes sense. So in terms of the change, we were nervous that people would be mad about the tradition, but it's still there. It's the point that we're recognizing students on campus who have just given so much to this university and that they should be recognized for their efforts. And so I've heard a lot of positive. I mean, obviously with any big change like that, you will receive some negative response, but we're trying to focus on those positives. And it's going to probably keep getting better from here.
Yeah. And it's just something we really stand by as well. If it was something we weren't fully believing in, I think that it would be kind of in a gray area of, well, do we really want to push this or not? But we as an exec and as an organization I've kind of come to the conclusion that this is something that needs to be addressed, and Jules really taking the lead on it, and we've kind of been able to push this new change in legislation, and we hope that it'll be around for a while, because we know that these social issues are not going to go away, and if we can kind of be on the forefront of it and be proactive about it, then we can be that inclusive school that these different groups feel comfortable coming to, and we definitely just want to be as open as possible.
All right, thank you. We're going to kick it back out to Sydney Jackstimer once again at Madison Union.
Thank you, Anna. And I am here with Taylor, who is a senior sociology major. Taylor, what is your question?
I was just wondering if SGA has made any effort to provide private tutoring for students with disabilities like they do for student athletes.
So the question is about whether or not you all, or if there's an organization out there that provides private tutoring for people with disabilities in the same way there's private tutoring for people who are involved in athletics.
Yeah. So we don't have a specific kind of like subsection for that, but we do have our learning centers located in the Student Success Center. Also, each department has their own kind of tutoring structure. And I know that in those learning centers, if you do present yourself at the beginning of the year, explain the accommodations you have, and I'm pretty sure if you do have an accommodation, let's say for extended time on a test, you would need to go through the Disability Services office as well. And although that paperwork can be tedious, the good thing is you find out about the resources available to you. And I know that those learning centers are open and inclusive to everyone. And I do know that, again, that the student life, everyone's trying to promote it and make sure that everyone does feel comfortable and is able to get those resources they need.
I mean, yeah, the Office of Disability Services, they have a lot of resources for students. They have 3 peer advocates in that office who are there for students to come in if they have questions about their classes or accommodations or tutoring. They're there to help. That office, if you've never been into it, it's huge, it's phenomenal. It's just was remodeled with SSC to have several just great features. I went in there for the first time this semester and I was blown away. And so if you go to their website, which is also newly updated. You can find all of their resources and everything that they do if you're a student with a disability who needs those accommodations.
And if you don't have a disability, that office is open to all students. And I know a number of students who go in and just to get their schedules done or to talk about how to manage their time properly or how to structure their schedules to plan for the big tests coming up and things like that. Student Success Center is just a hub for students where resources are on each floor. But again, just willing to go out, students willing to go out and take that step into the room and have that first conversation is so important. And I think that just talking about the office is so big, just again, for students to know.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot about the subject, whether they have it or not. It sounds like they don't have tutors specifically for that.
Yeah.
But if this is something we feel like we need, this is exactly why student government is here. Now, we can't promise to create tutors for them, but they can definitely come to us, and we can definitely work with them and try to work with Office of Disability Services to try to get something done. So no guarantees, but yeah, this is something student government loves to tackle.
That's why we have a town hall. Yeah, great question.
So this next question is for Jewel specifically. What does a day in the life look like for you as president?
So, I mean, every day is different. There are days that are much busier with a lot more meetings. But honestly, this is my second term. So last year was a little bit more of a learning curve because you not only are like the speaker for the students with the administration, but you kind of oversee the whole student government and the leadership team. And so, anywho, a day in the life, I mean, I go to meetings, a lot of meetings that not a lot of students know, like the strategic planning team, I'm on that. BOV, I also go to meetings in Richmond a lot, so I'm actually like this co-chair for a student advisory committee on the state level. So we not only are focusing on JMU specific issues, but issues that are specific to college students across the whole state. And so that's, yeah, it's hard to explain, but it's basically a lot of meetings. It's me representing and being a student voice in the room because they need it.
So I know you said you mentioned you meet with the Board of Visitors. What exactly do they do?
So the Board of Visitors is the governing body for our institution. Board of Visitors have to be appointed by the governor of Virginia. So they are kind of like rolling. So we'll get new Board of Visitors every year usually. So I think there were 2 new BOV members. Correct me if I'm wrong, someone. But so yeah, they actually make really big decisions regarding tuition, regarding policy changes, and they meet 4 times a year. And we have a student rep who actually is an advocate for students as well with me, and she gets to go sit at that full board meeting and voice student concerns there as well.
All right. What is being done in terms of transfer students to kind of ease their transition into JMU?
Yeah, so our orientation, the OPA team or the orientation office, does a great job for the students who come in traditionally. You apply your senior year, you come in, but I would say that this summer, in particular, was one where you saw a huge push for not just OPAs but TOPAs or transfer orientation peer advisors. And what's great is that they recognize that JMU has kind of become a hub for transfer students, whether you're coming from another university or you're coming from a community college or you just took a few years off. I think that word of mouth, and I know we were ranked #1 recommended university on some website, but for transfers, there is an allure to coming here, and we want to make sure that, again, that we are doing the proper things for them to not just come here and enjoy their time here, but be successful as well. So I know that we mentioned like tutoring centers and stuff like that for disabilities and athletics, and I know for transfer students there are specific options for you as well in terms of tutoring. So being available, having those resources, letting them know, hey, this is how you could, live on campus as a transfer student. This is how you could live off campus. Students do both. They love both. Talk to students who are doing both. Just things like that. I know that there is, again, that first awareness and then the proper steps to make sure that the students are being taken care of.
All right, thank you. We're going to do a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
This is Breeze TV.
And we're back with SGA Town Hall. So this next question is about resolutions that you all put forward. How does that work? What is it? Can y'all talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so resolutions are essentially the most basic piece of legislation that student government brings to the table. Essentially, a senator identifies something they want to write legislation about. They type up a formal document outlining exactly what they want, what they think we should have. We bring it to Senate, we read through it, we debate it. If it gets passed by a vote from our senators, we pass it on to the relevant faculty or administrators or people that we think need to see it. And on the other side of that, that's also how all of our contingency groups gain their funding. They come present to us, we read a resolution about why we should fund them, what they want to get funded. We debate, and then we go ahead and vote on that as well. So again, if it passes, they get the money.
You can reference Schoolhouse Rock on just a bill for like for all the structural purposes. It kind of does. There is a real parallel between the way our government's run and how our student governments run, in the sense where it all starts with the students again. Even those contingency groups, it's a group of students coming to a senator saying, "Hey, this is what we want to have happen. We think this is why," and it's just a formal document to signify that and to kind of make that official.
Mm-hmm.
And a great example of that is actually the Madison Majesty changes that just happened. Jewel and some senators actually worked to write this up about why they felt we should have this and how we should put it into effect. We brought it to our Senate meeting, we voted on it.
Well, it went to committee first, just like it would in Congress as well. Like,
Yeah.
Talk about committee.
Exactly.
Little things.
And then we brought it to Senate, we debated and it passed, and then it went into effect. So it's a great way to get stuff done.
Yeah, it's like the SGA consensus. It's a good way to think about it. If we pass a resolution, the SGA, the majority of SGA agrees that this is something that should happen, something that we should recognize, something that we want the public to know.
So not everyone on campus is a full-time student. Can part-time students get involved in SGA?
Yeah, so we actually
Yeah.
just amended our governing documents this year to allow part-time students to be members of student government. Up until September, it was only open to full-time students, but now it's open for everyone.
I am a part-time student now. After that amendment passed, I will say I was completely in my constitutional rights. But yeah, so we welcome everyone. It doesn't matter how many credits you have. If you're a student on this campus, you deserve to be represented and have a voice in SGA.
So last question, for people who are not in SGA, how do they get their voice heard?
Reach out to us, come to our Senate meeting, comment on town hall.
Yeah, and I mean, I also, and several other people, the Diversity Committee, Ledge Action, we're making a deliberative effort to reach out to other student groups. Because we know students are busy, students have a lot on their plate, they don't always get their ideas to us. So how is SGA really going out there and making sure that those students' voices are heard? Because that's our job. So we're trying to push that as much as we can too, that mindset.
All right, well, thank you all so much for being here. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you for
Thanks
having us.
Yeah.
All right, and this episode will be both on Breeze TV and SGA's Facebook, so you can catch it later as well. Thank you so much, and have a great night.